Hello, coders. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, all depending upon where you're joining us from. Welcome back to the CPT Guideline Mastery session with AMCI. Hello, everyone. I can see you all in the chat. Let me know, coders. How do I sound? Is it audible? Good? Just let me know in the chat. Hello. Okay, how is everyone doing today? How are you all? I hope you all are feeling energized and ready to jump into cardiovascular system. Okay, so because today's topic is all about the devices that literally keep our heart in rhythm and saves lives. Okay. All right, let me know in the chat coders. How do I sound? Is it audible? Okay, so today's session we are diving into one of the most important topics in the coding pacemakers and defibrillators. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for letting me know. And today we are going to break down on how these pacemaker and defibrillator work, where the lead goes, the CPT coding guidelines, everything. Okay, so grab your CPT manual, keep your highlighters ready, and get comfortable because by the end of this session, the pacemaker and defibrillator coding is going to feel a whole lot less scary and a whole lot more fun. Okay, so how are you doing, everyone? Okay, I can see all the chats coming. Great, great. Everyone's doing good. Thank you for letting me know that my sounds good. All right. So let's begin today's session. So as I said, today we are going to talk about something that literally keeps our heart rhythm going, and that's about the pacemakers and defibrillators. All right. Let's begin by reading out the copyright, CPT copyright 2026, American Medical Association, all right reserved. CPC is a registered trademark of AAPC, and the AAPC content found within this presentation is a copyright of AAPC. The keyword concept FDR, John AMCI Fab 7, AMCI ICD 10 Flip Tab, and MCG are the trademark of AMCI. The credentials CPCC, RCCOC, CPMA, CPB, CPPM, CPCO are owned by AAPC. AMCI do not own right to these credentials. The credentials CCA, CCS, CCS-P, RHIA, RHIT are owned by AHIMA. AMCI do not own right to these credentials. Okay, so before we begin, let's talk about where to find the pacemaker and defibrillator codes in your CPT manual. So you will find these under the surgery section, specifically under the cardiovascular system. All right. And the pacemaker and defibrillator code range from 33202 to 33275. Now, first, exactly what is a pacemaker? Do anyone know? Let me know in the chat if you know the answer. So, a pacemaker or a cardiac pacemaker, it's a small electronic medical device that helps to control the abnormal heart rhythm, also medically known as arrhythmias. Okay, so it works by sending a tiny electric impulse to the heart muscles to make sure that the heart beats at a normal and steady rate. Yes. So when the heart starts beating too slow or too fast or irregularly, the pacemaker sends out a tiny electrical signal to say, hey, heart, stay in the rhythm. All right. So now let's break down it into the parts. So a pulse generator, a pacemaker consists of two parts. Number one, it's a pulse generator. All right, you can see the image. So this is the brain and battery of the system. So it contains a battery and the electronic circuits that create those electrical impulses. All right. And the second part is your leads, also called as wires. So these are like delivery cables. They carry the electric signal from the generator straight into the heart muscle so that the heart knows exactly when to contract. Okay, so these are your leads. Now you might be wondering, where do you put these device? So a pulse generator is placed in a small pocket created under the skin, and it is called as a subcutaneous pocket. Yes, you can see this over here. There is a subcutaneous pocket. Let me show you another image. Yes, this is your subcutaneous pocket. So mostly subcutaneous pockets are in your collarbone, just below your collarbone, or sometimes they are just above the abdominal muscles under the rib cage. So we will talk about this later in the upcoming slides. So no, it's not floating around. It has its own little home that is under the skin. And next, let's see how the leads get into the heart. So there are two ways the leads can reach to the heart. One is transvenous. So as the name says, these are passed through the veins and guided into your heart chambers. And this is the most common method, and this is less invasive. And there is an epicardial leads. In this method, the leads are placed directly on the outside surface of the heart, called as epicardium. And this procedure requires a thoracotomy, which means test has to be surgically open. All right. So remember, coders, transvenous means through a vein, and epicardial is directly on the heart surface. So mostly it requires a thoracotomy. All right. Are we good so far? Okay. Okay. So now that we know what a pacemaker is and how it works, let's move on to something very important, the types of the pacemaker. And trust me, this part is very important for coding these devices. All right, so let's start with the single chamber pacemaker. And as the name says, single means only one lead. You can see that in the image as well. So it consists of one pulse generator and one lead placed either in the right atrium or in the right ventricle. All right. So remember, single chamber means one lead and one chamber. And next up is a dual chamber pacemaker. Now we are leveling up, and this system consists of one pulse generator and two leads. All right, and one of these lead will be placed in the right atrium and one lead will be placed in the right ventricle. So this allows the pacemaker to coordinate the timing between the top chamber and the bottom chamber of the heart. So remember, dual means two leads, and one will be placed in your atrium and the other will be placed in your ventricle. All right, now comes the advanced one, the biventricular pacemaker. So this system includes a pulse generator, and the leads are placed in the right atrium, right ventricle, and an additional lead is placed in the left ventricle. All right, so there are three leads in your biventricular pacemaker. So this system paces both the ventricles at the same time to improve the heart pumping in the patients with heart failure. Okay, and next, now comes the future. Welcome to the future, I would say. Yes, so this is about the leadless pacemaker. This one is very different from others, and it has a self-contained device and has a built-in battery, electrodes, and has no leads at all. That's why it's called a leadless pacemaker. And this is implanted directly into the heart chamber using a transvenous catheter. All right, so instead of wires and pockets under the skin, the pacemaker sits inside the heart itself. So that's a most advanced pacemaker. So you can see how it evolved over the time and how small these pacemakers are, right? Okay, so these are the different types of the pacemaker. All right, now we are moving on from keeping the heart rhythm to saving, keeping the heart in the rhythm to the saving heart when it completely loses the control. Okay, so let's talk about defibrillator. So what is a defibrillator? A defibrillator is a medical device used to restore a normal heart rhythm by delivering a strong electrical shock to the heart when a person develops life-threatening abnormal rhythm, like a ventricular fibrillation or a ventricular tachycardia. Okay, so think of it like this. A pacemaker is a gentle reminder, okay, and a defibrillator that provides an emergency shock therapy. So that's the difference between your pacemaker and a defibrillator. So defibrillator will provide an electric shock to the heart, okay. So just like the pacemaker, defibrillator system also includes a pulse generator and the electrodes, which is also known as leads. So they are the same. And transvenous. So let's see into the different types of the defibrillator. So first we have transvenous implantable cardioverter defibrillator, ICD. So these the types of the defibrillators are based on where the lead is placed. Okay, so you can see the name itself. From the name itself, it's clear that this is a transvenous implantable pacing cardioverter defibrillator. And here the lead goes inside the heart and it is inserted through a vein. So this is a most traditional type, and the electrodes can be positioned in the atrium or in the ventricle or both depending upon the system. And next we have a subcutaneous implantable defibrillator, or it is also known as SICD. And here the big difference is that the lead is placed under the skin. It does not go inside the heart, and the electrode is tunneled under the skin and positioned along the left parasternal margin, meaning next to the breastbone on the left side. So subcutaneous means under the skin, outside the heart. And then comes the third one, the substernal implantable cardioverter defibrillator. And here what happens is that the lead is tunneled under the skin and placed behind the breastbone in the substernal anterior mediastinum. Okay, so it also does not enter the heart, and it does not go inside the heart. Yeah. So that's three types of defibrillator. All right, now that we understand what pacemaker and defibrillators are, let's talk about how they are actually put into the body. So I already have covered a small portion of this. So we are going to look into the insertion process. So first, let's talk about where the pulse generator are placed, or how the pulse generator are placed. So pulse generator, as you know, this is a little box that holds the battery and the electronic parts. So pulse generator is placed in the small subcutaneous pocket created by the surgeon. And these pockets usually made in subclavicular site just below the collarbone, or in some patients just above the abdominal muscles under the rib cage. So you can see it over here. This is the near your abdominal muscles, the abdominal muscles under the rib cage, and over here this is the subclavicular site. All right. And next, let's look how the leads get into the heart. So there are two ways the lead can be placed. One is the transvenous lead insertion. As I said previously, in the transvenous approach, the lead is inserted through the vein and guided into the heart chamber. And this is the most common method used today, and it does not require opening of the heart chest. And next is the epicardial insertion. So in the epicardial approach, the lead is placed on the surface of the heart. So epicardial means near the heart muscle itself, okay? And this approach requires thoracotomy, meaning the chest must be surgically open to access the heart. All right, so let's move on. Okay, Codus. Now we are moving on to the coding part. So, Codus, I hope you all know that we have a pacemaker and defibrillator chart in our CPT manual. And trust me, this chart is extremely helpful when you're choosing the correct codes. Okay, but here's a golden rule you must remember: These charts are used only for transvenous insertion and removal of the pacemakers and defibrillator, and it is not used for the epicardial or thoracotomy procedure. Okay, and I've just noted the different procedures in the chart. You have insertion procedures. All right, so you have codes for the leads only, insertion of the leads only procedures. Then we have battery only insertion procedures. Then you have the system only insertion procedure. So system means that includes your leads and the battery. All right, both together is a system, what we call the system. And then we have the leadless insertion procedure codes over here. Also, you have two sets of codes. One is for your pacemaker. The other one is for your implantable defibrillator, right? Next, we have upgrade codes. Here is the upgrade codes, and comes a removal and replacement code series. Then we have removal leadless procedure codes. And finally, we have the conversion codes also. Okay, so remember coders, these are only used for transvenous insertion or removal and not for the epicardial or thoracotomy procedures. Okay, are we good so far? Let me know in the chat. So now we are getting into some important guidelines on the leadless pacemaker. Okay, so when the right ventricular leadless pacemaker system is implanted, the correct CPT code to report is 33274. All right, that is for the implantation of right ventricular leadless pacemaker system. Now, for the single chamber leadless pacemaker, which is implanted into your right atrium, not the part of a dual system, you will use codes from 0823T to 0825T. Okay, so these are your temporary codes, and that's where you will find these codes series. And for the complete dual chamber leadless pacemaker system implanted in the right atrium and the right ventricle, or for the individual system components, see the codes 0795T to 0803T. All right, someone has said the screen is small. The screen is small because you are viewing a mobile view version of the streaming. So we have one more link in our AMCI channel. If you switch to the other link, you will see the desktop version. And I hope our team will place that link in the chat. Miss Jolly, if you're there, if you can place that link, that will be helpful. Okay, Chorus, let's move on to the next point. And device evaluation at the time of leadless pacemaker insertion, replacement, or removal are included in the codes 33274, 33275, 0795T, and 02 through 0803T, and 0823T through 0825T, and it is not separately reportable. And for the subsequent leadless pacemaker device evaluation codes, you can use these codes 93279, 93286, 93288, 93294, 93296, and 08048. That simply means that device evaluation at the time of leadless pacemaker insertion, replacement, removal is bundled in the code itself, in the procedure code itself. All right. Okay, and next, the right heart catheterization codes may not be reported with the leadless pacemaker insertion or removal codes unless performed for separate, distinct indication. So that's about the leadless pacemaker guidelines. Now let's look into some of the guidelines, general guidelines for the lead removal procedure. So transvenous leads are usually removed through the veins first, and if that procedure is unsuccessful, surgical removal via a thoracotomy may be performed. And subcutaneous leads are removed through the skin tunneling. The leadless pacemaker can be removed alone or removed and replaced in the same session as well. All right. Next, let's look into the pulse generator replacement guidelines. So When a pacemaker or ICD battery is changed, it is a pulse generator that is actually replaced. All right, as I said, the pacemaker and the ICD device has two parts. One is your pulse generator, and next is your leads. So when a battery is changed, that means it is a pulse generator which is actually changed or replaced, okay, and not the entire system. So if only pulse generator or if only the battery is replaced and no leads are changed, report generator replacement only. And if the leads are also inserted and replaced along with the battery, you report for the entire system. Is that guideline clear, Codis? All right, thank you for letting me know. Great. Thank you, Miss Dolly. Let's move on to the next one. Next is about the skin pocket guidelines. So creation or revision of the device pocket is usually included in the system procedure. The pocket relocation may be necessary in scenarios where there is an infection, erosion, or patient discomfort. And the pocket relocation includes opening the old pockets, incision and drainage of the hematoma or the infection if present, and creating a new pocket, also closing the old side. And when the skin pocket relocation is performed as a part of removal of an existing generator followed by a placement of a new generator, the pocket relocation is separately reported. All right. Okay, so it's time to look into some of the facts to remember. So while coding these cardiac pacer, defibrillator, implantable defibrillator procedures, these are the few questions you must ask out. These are the few guidelines you should keep in your mind. So first ask what is performed. Is that a pacemaker procedure? Is that a defibrillator procedure, or a procedure about the battery, lead system, or a leadless device? So you must ask that first, okay, and that will give you an idea where or which categories of codes are we looking into. And next question, look for the type. Is this a temporary or a permanent pacemaker or defibrillator? And the third point, you have to see how they are implanted. Is it a transvenous, thoracotomy, or thoracostomy, or epicardial? Because we have codes for all these uh, implantation procedures. There are different codes for all of these. Next, number of leads or electrodes. Definitely, we have to know that. Yes, so we will be doing some exercises based on those guidelines today. So we will get to know why it is important to know the number of leads or electrodes. Next point, skin pocket creations and revisions are bundled. Skin pocket repositions are coded when the part of an explant of an existing battery. Then, biventricular pacing lead, that is the third lead, is coded separately using 33224 or 33225. And body surface activation for optimization of biventricular pacing at the time of the implant, you would report 0695T with appropriate code. Next point, use the pacemaker chart for transvenous subcutaneous insertion or removal procedures, the chart which I have shown previously. And finally, do not code the right heart catheterization with leadless pacing device. Okay. And coders always while coding for cardiac pacemaker and defibrillator procedure, keep an eye on your parenthetical guideline. And in most of the cases, that will guide you to the correct answers. Okay, that is very important in this section. As I said, we will do some exercise and you will get to know. All right, so are you ready for some coding exercise on cardiac pacemaker and defibrillator? Are you all ready? I know you all are. So let's begin. Here we go. Here's your exercise number one of the following answers which best describe the procedure. Option A, 33206, option B 33212, option C 33210, option D 33211. A 75-year-old patient is brought to the emergency department with dizziness and hypotension due to severe bradycardia. The cardiologist determines that temporary cardiac pacing is required. At bedside, a transvenous pacing lead is inserted into the right ventricle and connected to an external pulse generator to stabilize the heart rate, patient's heart rate. Of the following, which best describe the procedure and coders? Your time begins now. All the best. All right, coders. I was just looking into the chat. We have more than that number of students watching the live stream. So go ahead, coders, place your answers in the chat. Don't worry that even if you get it wrong, that's not a big deal. We are here to learn together, right? Okay, so great answers so far. So let's go ahead and let's break down the scenario. Okay, so we have in this scenario an insertion of a temporary transvenous single chamber pacemaker, right? All right, so what are the codes available? So we have 33206, that is coding for insertion of new or replacement of a permanent pacemaker with transvenous electrode atrial. All right, so if you check the question, we have to identify the type of the pacemaker or defibrillator, whether it's a temporary or permanent, right? So the answer is we are looking at a temporary transvenous single chamber pacemaker placement and not a permanent. And that helps me eliminate first option, that is option A. Let's look into the next one. Next is 33212, that is coding for an insertion of pacemaker pulse generator only, right? So we are not looking at a insertion of a pulse generator alone. It's a entire system that has been placed, right? So that makes option P also incorrect. And let's look into the next two. We are left with option C and option D. I can see most of you have went with option C. That's the only alphabet which I can see in the chat. Okay, see, let's see which if it is correct or not. Okay, so 33211 is coding for an insertion or replacement of a temporary transvenous single chamber cardiac electrode or pacemaker catheter. Pacemaker catheter, sorry, that was 33210. I'm looking at 33211, right? So 33211 is coding for insertion or replacement of a temporary transvenous dual chamber pacing electrode procedure, and 33210, that is coding for insertion of or a replacement of temporary transvenous single chamber cardiac electrode pacemaker catheter. So the main difference between these two codes, option C and option D, is that option C is coding for a single chamber and option D is coding for a dual chamber. All right, coders, let me know in the chat. Why would you say that this is a single chamber uh, pacemaker placement? Why do you think so? Why does it can be a dual chamber pacemaker placement? Let me know in the chat. Okay, I think my chat is a little bit slow. Okay, there you go. Exactly. It only mentioned one lead. You all are phenomenal. Yes. Fantastic answers in the chat. Yes, it's mentioned that the transvenous pacing lead is inserted just into the right ventricle and it's only one lead. Absolutely correct. So that means if one lead is being inserted into one of your chamber, that means it's a single chamber device, right? That's what we learned in the previous slide. And knowing that, I can eliminate option D, that is coding for a dual chamber pacing electrode procedure. So that is incorrect. And the correct answer is going to be option C, 33210. All right, coders, excellent job. Excellent job. Phenomenal job in the chat. Let's move on to the next question. Here we go. Exercise number 2. Of the following answers, which best describe the procedure? Option A, 33228. Option B, 332233. Option C, 33233. Option D, 33208. Option D, 33229. A 76-year-old patient with previously implanted dual chamber pacemaker presents for elective generator replacement due to battery depletion. And during the procedure, existing pacemaker pulse generator is removed from the subclavicular pocket and replaced with a new pulse generator. Of the following answers, which best describe the procedure? All right, coders, what say you? Your time begins now. Go ahead and place your best answers in the chat. You got this one. All right. So once again, everyone everyone is on the same page. Or you are all saying the same alphabet. Okay, so that is alphabet A. And let's see if it is a correct answer or not. So inventory, we have removal and replacement of a permanent pacemaker, pulse generator. So that's the procedure which is performed. And option 33233, I think that is option B. It is coding for a removal of a permanent pacemaker pulse generator only. So yes, there was a removal of a pacemaker, but there was also a replacement of the pacemaker performed. And option 33233 is not coding for that replacement procedure. It's only coding for a removal procedure. That's why it is incorrect. It's not coding for the complete procedure that took place, right? So option B is incorrect because of that. Let's see option C. Option C is coding for 33233, which is for removal of the permanent pacemaker, pulse generator only, and 33208. Now, this is coding for an insertion of a new or replacement of a permanent pacemaker with transvenous electrode. That is very important. That's important to him. It's coding for an insertion of a new or replacement of a permanent pacemaker with transvenous electrode and at atrial and ventricular. So this is incorrect because it is coding for insertion of an entire system. We didn't had that. We had only a removal of the pacemaker and a replacement of the pacemaker. I'm sorry, the pulse generator. So pulse generator is your battery, right? So that's why option C is also incorrect. Now between option A and option D, both are coding for, one is coding for 33228. That is for yes, that's for removal of the permanent pacemaker pulse generator with the replacement of a pacemaker pulse generator multiple lead system. And 33228 is coding for a dual lead system. So it's been clearly documented that the patient had a dual chamber pacemaker. There was no documentation that it's a multi-lead system, right? So that's help us eliminate option D. And as you all said, the correct answer is option A. Once again, fantastic job, everyone. Great jobs. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Here we go, exercise number 3. And the question is, of the following answers which best describe the procedure, your options are option A, 33214, option B, 33224, option C, 33208, 33225, option D, 33207, 33225. A 70-year-old patient with previously implanted dual chamber pacemaker presents with a worsening heart failure, symptoms, and evidence of ventricular dysynchrony. The cardiologist determines that patient would benefit from a biventricular pacing. The patient is taken to an electrophysiology lab through a venous approach. The physician advances a pacing lead into the cardiac venous system and positions it in a vein overlying the left ventricle. The newly placed left ventricular lead is then connected to the existing pacemaker pulse generator. Of the following answers, which best describe the procedure? All right, coders, your time begins now. All right, this is to someone who has placed in the comment. If you're seeing the screen as a small, if the questions are small, please switch to our desktop streaming version. So there's another link in the channel for the desktop streaming. You can switch the channel, switch to that particular link, and you will be able to view the questions. All right, thank you. Can you hear me now? Am I audible? Let me know in the chat. Okay. I think something technical. All right. Thank you for letting me know. So I just unplugged my microphone and switched it back, plugged it back. So I think I'm back. All right. Thank you for letting me know. So I will start explaining once again. So we are looking at 33214. That is coding for an upgrade of an implanted pacemaker system conversion of a single chamber system to a dual chamber system. So what happened here is that we had a patient with a dual chamber pacemaker, and an additional lead was placed, and that lead was placed into the left ventricle, right? So this is not a upgrade from a single chamber to a dual chamber. Actually, patient already had a dual chamber pacemaker. So that's the reason why option A is incorrect. We are looking at option C and option D. Now both are coding for 33207 and 33208 respectively. 33207 is for insertion of a new or replacement of a permanent pacemaker with transvenous electrode. So that language is very important. Insertion of a new or a replacement of a pacemaker, permanent pacemaker with a transvenous electrode. That means it's an entire system insertion or replacement mentioned over there, right? Yes, so the patent code itself is incorrect. We didn't had a insertion or replacement of a system over here. We just had a insertion of a additional lead, the third lead, right? So that's why I would say option C is incorrect. Also option D. So the parent code itself is incorrect. So no need to go further and look at it. So both are wrong. So option C and option D is incorrect. Please let me know in the chat coders if the explanation helps, or if you have any questions, you can let me know in the chat. Now we are left with option B. That is the correct answer. I saw everyone went with option B. Exactly, that's the correct answer. And it's coding for insertion of a pacing electrode cardiac venous system for left ventricular pacing with attachments to the previously placed pacemaker or implantable defibrillator pulse generator. So yes, there was a placement of the third lead, and that was attached to the previous pacemaker. And you can see it in our MCG guidelines as well. For biventricular pacing, lead is coded separately using the code 33224 or 33225 accordingly, right? Great. All right, let's move on to the fourth scenario. All right, coders, of the following answers, which best describe the procedure? Option A, 33241, option B, 33249, option C, 33249, 3322244, option D, 33241, 33244, and 33249. A 74-year-old patient with previously implanted permanent transvenous implantable cardioverter defibrillator ICD presents with the device malfunction and lead failure. The cardiologist decides to remove and replace the ICD system. During the procedure, existing ICD pulse generator is removed from the subclavicular pocket. The malfunctioning transvenous defibrillator lead is also removed. A new transvenous defibrillator lead is then inserted and positioned in the right ventricle. A new permanent ICD pulse generator is implanted and connected to the new lead. Of the following answers, which best describe the procedure? And coders, your time begins now. All right, we have someone here, new member here. Hi, welcome to AMCI. All right, coders, your time begins now. You all are superb, excellent coders. All right, your time begins now, and you can start placing your answers in the chat. All right, coders, that is time, and I can see some answers already in the chat. So good work. Okay, so this is going to be a teachable moment. It's going to be a great scenario. So let's see. Okay, all right, all right. I'm just viewing the chat now. Okay, let's solve this one. So what happened over here? Let's look into the inventory. We have a removal and replacement of a permanent pacemaker, sorry, permanent ICD. That is your defibrillator, right? The entire system was removed and replaced. Okay, so entire system means that includes your pulse generator, that includes your leads as well, and your pulse generator and the leads were removed and they were replaced with the new ones. Okay, that's what happened in our scenario. Okay, so option 33241, option A, it is coding for a removal of implantable defibrillator pulse generator only. So as I said, it's not just a removal procedure that was happened here. Okay, it was not just a removal of a pulse generator only happened here. We had a pulse generator, that is your battery, removed, and the leads removed, and an insertion of a new implantable defibrillator system was also performed. Okay, so I can see almost all the alphabets now in the chat. Okay, so option A is out of the favorable answer. So option A is wrong. We are moving on to the option B. Option B is going for 33249, and that is for insertion or replacement of a permanent implantable defibrillator system with transvenous lead, single or dual chamber. So I think most of you went with option B. Now I would say why option B is incorrect, because that is only coding for your insertion procedure. So I said previously that there was a removal performed, removal of the defibrillator, pulse generator, and lead, as well as insertion of a new pulse generator, sorry, ICD system performed over here. And I said you in the beginning, you must look into the parenthetical guide. Always have an eye on the parenthetical guidelines while coding for the uh, defibrillator and pacemaker procedures. Because over here you can see in the parenthetical guideline that will guide you actually to the correct answer. Straight away it will guide you to the correct answer. For removal and replacement of implantable defibrillator, pulse generator, and transvenous electrode, use code 33241 in conjunction with either 33243 or 33244 and 33249. How are you all feeling, coders? Let me know in the chat. I can see some of you are changing the answers. Okay, all right. Wasn't that an aha moment? Yes, Miss Jolly. The parenthetical guideline was gold. So always have an eye on the parenthetical guideline. That is very, very important. Now, option C is also incorrect. That is not coding for a removal of pulse generator, right? Option C is coding for 33249, which is for insertion of an ICD system. 33244, which is removal of a transvenous, removal of an defibrillator electrode. But again, it is not coding for removal of the pulse generator. And the parenthetical guideline, the key guideline said that we have to code for removal of the implant pulse generator, defibrillator pulse generator, also removal of the lead of the defibrillator, as well as then you have to code for the insertion or replacement of a permanent implantable defibrillator system. All right, coders, let me know in the chat. How are you all feeling after that scenario? Was that an aha moment? Okay, did the explanation help? Also, there is an easy way you can arrive at the answer. That's how you use this chart, which I showed in the beginning. All right, so if you have used this chart, also you will come to or arrive at the correct answer. See, you can first locate the procedure. The procedure was removal and replacement of the pulse generator and transvenous electrode, right? The entire system was removed and replaced. And then you have to identify the system. Was it a pacemaker or a defibrillator? So it was a defibrillator, right? So that was a defibrillator. And you, if you come down and there is your answers. You can use 33241, 33244, 3324, A9, and 33225 if applicable, of if appropriate. Okay. All right. So no, there is no two machines. It's one of the system removed and a new system replaced it. Okay. So if you're asking in that context, yes, there was one system or one device that is removed, and the other one was replaced the old one. All right. So coders, let's move on. It's time for our rapid fire section. All right, coders, here you go. Here's your first handball scenario. Okay, you can answer as quickly as possible. Place your answers in the chat. Here's your first question. How is a lead placement classified in this scenario? A pacemaker lead is surgically placed on the surface of the heart through a thoracotomy. Is this a transvenous lead placement, a subcutaneous or epicardial, or a leadless placement? Okay, all right. I have one fast coder, two, three, and the answer starts coming. All right, you all are picking the pace now. Excellent, excellent answer. Yes, the correct answer is epicardial pace lead placement. Yes, because it's placed on the surface of the heart, right? That's near your heart. That's epicardial. Great answer. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, a provider removes an old pacemaker pulse generator and connects a new generator to an existing leads. No new leads are inserted. How is this procedure reported? Do you report a battery only, a lead only? I think I have to remove the pulse generator because battery and pulse generator both are same. So, okay, so you can answer either A or C, both are same. And option D is the entire pacemaker system. Okay, so here a provider removes the old pacemaker pulse generator and connects to a new generator. Connects a new generator to the existing leads. Okay. All right, all right. Yes, yes. Okay, so both answers are correct. Option A and option C are correct because pulse generator and battery are the same, right? That I told you in the beginning. Yes, so both are same. So if you have answered option A or option C, both are correct. So great answers, great answers. Excellent. Let's move on to the next one. A pacemaker lead is placed through the veins and positioned inside the right ventricle. This lead placement is described as option A, epicardial, option B, transvenous, option C, subcutaneous, or option D, leadless. What say you, coders? Okay, you all are super fast. There you go. Yes, it is indeed. It is option B. That is transvenous. Because the lead is placed through the vein and positioned inside the right ventricle, right? So that is through the vein. Through the vein means it is transvenous. Excellent. Let's move on to the next one. Removal of a transvenous ICD lead is attempted first using a transvenous extraction technique. When it is unsuccessful, a thoracotomy is required or thoracotomy may be performed. Is this statement true or false? What say you, coders? Okay, okay, okay. Yes, this is true. So initially, there will be an attempt to extract the lead using transvenous technique. And if it is not possible or if it was unsuccessful, a thoracotomy surgery may be performed. Yes, this statement is true. All right. The last handful scenario for this week. A pacemaker system has one lead in the right atrium, one lead in the right ventricle. This represent option A. Is it single chamber pacemaker? Option B is a dual chamber pacemaker. Option C is it biventricular pacemaker, or option D is it a subcutaneous pacemaker? What say you, coders? All right, remember we have two leads. What does that mean? Two leads means, yes, two leads mean that is dual chamber pacemaker. Wonderful. Excellent job, coders. I am really proud of you all. You were pros. You were like a professional cardiac coders. Excellent job. All right, you did a fantastic job. Amazing job, and you have mastered the cardiac pacers and defibrillators guidelines. So coders, if you enjoyed the video, please smash that like button, subscribe, and also don't forget to share it with someone who needs to see this. Okay, someone who's preparing for the examination, the certification, or someone who is doing a cardiology coding as well. And coders, I have also placed a link in the chat, the survey link. Please to fill that form, and please let us know how did we do. Also, if you have any questions, you can place them in the link as well. So I have placed it in the chat. Chorus, please go ahead and please do fill that survey form. All right. Okay, coders. So we'll see you all next week. Next week, I think we are going to review something from the digestive system. All right. And we will come up with a good topic. So till then, coders, stay safe, keep coding, and see you all next week. Thank you, Miss Dolly, for assisting and helping me and also encouraging the coders in the chat. Thank you so much. Thank you, coders, for joining. Looking forward to see you all in the next week. All right.
4,000 exam passers and free classes at AMCI. Learn to code straight from home or on the road at AMCI. We're on the East Coast, the West Coast. We're all